Some people get all the luck. That's the story we tell ourselves. The truth is something different, a machine grinding away just beneath the surface of success. Most people see the wins, the lucky breaks, the overnight successes. They miss the physics of the system. This debate cuts to the core of what we believe about fairness and effort. Both sides have a point that could change how you see your own life. Where do you stand? By the end of this, you might change your mind. Let's start with the push. The flywheel, a massive heavy stone wheel, sits motionless. Getting it to move that first quarter turn is brutal. It requires disproportionate effort. This is the argument for merit. The initial success, the one that sets everything in motion, is almost always earned through sweat, risk, and sacrifice. Think of the founder sleeping on their office floor, funding their idea with credit card debt, or the scientist spending a decade in a lab on a single theory, facing ridicule and rejection. Their first breakthrough, their first round of funding, their first published paper, that isn't luck. It's the result of applying immense, concentrated force to a point of resistance until it finally gives way. This initial effort creates the first sliver of momentum, the first dollar of profit, the first person of influence who returns their call. From this perspective, the game is fair at the start. Everyone begins with a stationary wheel, and those willing to expend the most energy get the first crucial rotation. It's a powerful and appealing story. It validates the struggle and honors the sacrifice. That sounds convincing, a reward for pure brute force effort. But there's a problem. What happens on the second turn? The physics of the system change after the first success. The second turn is easier, and the third is easier still. This is the core of the flywheel effect. Each turn adds momentum to the wheel, so the next turn requires less effort to achieve the same or even greater speed. Your first successful project gives you a reputation. That reputation means your next proposal is read more carefully. The money from that first win provides a cushion, allowing you to take smarter risks, to turn down bad opportunities and wait for the great ones. People who once ignored you now seek you out. Your network expands passively, doors open on their own. Consider two programmers. One builds an app on weekends, hoping for a few thousand downloads. The other builds an app, gets it featured on a major tech blog, and earns $100,000. For their next project, who has the advantage? The second programmer now has capital, a proven track record, and a direct line to the journalist who featured them before. They can hire help, they can run ads, their flywheel is spinning. The first programmer is still trying to muscle through that first brutal rotation. The system begins to reward momentum itself, a process that can feel deeply disconnected from the effort being put in. The machine is now running, and yet this view has a blind spot. It assumes everyone starts with the same wheel. What if some people are born next to a flywheel that's already spinning at 1,000 rotations per minute? This is the uncomfortable reality of inherited advantage. We can talk about financial capital, the trust fund, the seed money from parents, the ability to work for free at a prestigious internship, because rent is already covered. That's the most obvious part. But the inheritance goes deeper. There is social capital. The network of powerful friends and family who can make a call, open a door, or provide mentorship. A conversation over dinner at the country club can be worth more than a decade of cold calling. Then there's cultural capital. The education, the vocabulary, the unspoken codes of behavior learned at elite institutions that signal you belong in rooms where decisions are made. A person who inherits all three starts the race at the finish line. Their flywheel was pushed by their parents, their grandparents, their entire lineage. Their success might still require effort, but it's the effort of steering a moving vehicle, not pushing a dead weight. When the child of a private equity executive gets their startup funded by their father's colleagues, their risk is operating on an entirely different plane from the person risking their family's life savings. The system is magnifying a starting position they never earned. This feels fundamentally unjust. A system that so heavily rewards the accident of birth seems rigged. It makes a mockery of meritocracy. The logical response would be to try and reset the wheel to level the playing field for each new generation. But the defenders of the system ask a very sharp question. What happens then? Imagine a world where you cannot pass on your success to your children. Any wealth you accumulate, any business you build, any advantage you secure is dissolved upon your death. The flywheel is reset to zero for your heirs. What does that do to human motivation? The argument is that this would destroy the incentive to build anything lasting. Why sacrifice? Why innovate? Why work for decades to build something of value if you cannot share its fruits with your family? For many, the drive to provide a better life for their children is the most powerful engine of economic activity. Remove it, and you might remove the very force that gets the flywheel spinning in the first place. This is the debate behind inheritance taxes and wealth taxes. It pits our ideal of equal opportunity against the fundamental human desire to create a legacy. The drive to build and the drive to pass on what's been built are deeply intertwined. If you sever that link, you risk grinding the entire machine to a halt. So we have a paradox. A system that lets flywheels spin leads to staggering inequality. A system that tries to stop them might kill the engine of progress itself. But the problem gets even deeper. The flywheel effect doesn't just create individual winners. Over time, it changes the entire landscape of the game. The biggest flywheels, the mega corporations, the dynastic families, the dominant platforms, begin to develop their own gravity. They attract all the available resources. The best talent wants to work for them because they pay the most and offer the best opportunities. The most promising startups get acquired by them. Smaller competitors are starved of capital and attention. This gravity warps the rules. Wealth is translated directly into political influence through lobbying and campaign donations. Regulations are shaped to favor the incumbents. The tax code develops loopholes that only they are large enough to exploit. Think of a major tech platform that sees a popular new app. It can choose to either acquire it or replicate its core feature and bundle it into its existing service for free, effectively killing the smaller company overnight. The flywheel is no longer just moving faster, it's now actively clearing the path ahead of it, removing any obstacles. It's a feedback loop where power begets more power until the very concept of a fair race becomes meaningless. This seems to be the final word. The game is rigged, comprehensively. But there's one last uncomfortable argument that complicates the entire picture. What if we all benefit from the draft created by these massive spinning flywheels? The innovations and infrastructure they create have positive externalities. Their immense resources allow for moonshot projects and long-term research that smaller entities could never afford. The smartphone in your pocket is the product of a gargantuan corporate flywheel. It has spawned an entire app economy, creating millions of jobs for people who never worked for the parent company. The cheap, fast shipping that delivers a package to your door in 2 days is the result of a logistics network built on a scale previously unimaginable, a network only possible through a flywheel of unprecedented size. We may resent the immense concentration of wealth and power, but we willingly use the services it produces. We implicitly accept the trade-off. We tolerate the inequality at the center in exchange for the convenience, the technology, and the economic opportunities that ripple outwards. The wind from the spinning wheel makes many of our lives easier, even as the wheel itself widens the gap between the few and the many. The question becomes about the price. Is the trade-off worth it? At what point does the flywheel's gravity become so strong that its negative effects, the crushed competition, the stagnant wages, the political capture, outweigh the benefits we all receive from its draft? The system is designed for momentum. On one hand, it represents the earned reward for initial, heroic effort, a force that incentivizes the very creation of wealth and progress that can lift all boats. On the other hand, it's an engine for compounding inherited advantage, a machine that concentrates power until it can rewrite the rules in its own favor, making true equality a fantasy. It's both a testament to individual drive and a blueprint for systemic injustice. The flywheel is real. It is spinning right now. So, where do you draw the line? At what point does a reward for effort become an unfair advantage, and who gets to decide when to slow the wheel down, knowing that we all feel the breeze it creates?